What's up guys, I'm BTC, welcome back to the Respawn, a weekly series where I answer your questions. Quick update, I wanted to try something new for getting the questions from you guys. So for next week, I want you to leave your questions in the comment section of this video. So rather than posting it on the community tab of my YouTube channel, leave your questions in the comment section of this video and I'll pick a bunch of them for next week. First up, since McCree can one-shot squishies when nanoed, why isn't that a more popular combo? There are two good reasons for that. First of all, it's easy to avoid. You can just have a barrier in the way, or even easier than that, you can just go behind a wall and wait for the nano to run out. It's not like the McCree is going to be right next to your characters, he's probably going to have at least a little bit of distance. So it's pretty easy to avoid. The other thing is that it is a skill requirement in order to actually get those hits. So if the McCree isn't landing the attack, then you're not going to do any damage. So for those two reasons, it becomes not exactly the greatest thing to nano. That's why you more often see stuff like a Reinhardt or a Genji being nanoed, because with Reinhardt, when he gets nanoed, you can just run in, he's got plenty of armor, plenty of health, and he can just swing around at the enemies and do quite a bit of damage. With Genji, he has enough mobility to get to where the enemies are, and his ultimate also ignores barriers, ignores things like defense matrix and kinetic grasp, so as long as he's close enough he can hit them. It's not like it can be absorbed or blocked. He can just keep hitting them. Same thing with Reinhardt. So that's why you see stuff like that getting nanoed far more often than a McCree. I want to take a brief moment to thank today's sponsor, which is Audible. You can get a free audiobook to keep forever and support the channel by using the link down below. Hey, do you have that toss a coin to your Witcher song stuck in your head like so many people do? Well, guess what? The entire Witcher saga has been completed. It's not like Game of Thrones where it might take another 20 years before the author finishes the books. The Witcher saga is done. So if you don't want to wait around for the show, you can go and get the entire rest of the story right now. Start with The Last Wish and the Sword of Destiny, and then move through the rest of the books. And you might want to leave Season of Storms for the last because it's got some spoiler stuff in it that might ruin the other books. But in any case, you can get the entire story from Audible. Use the link down below. You can get the first one for free. Next up, are loot boxes and coins that we have now in Overwatch 1 going to carry over to Overwatch 2? And if so, should we start hoarding them? So, we've already been told that skins and other cosmetic items will carry over to Overwatch 2. Effectively, if you buy Overwatch 2, then you just never need to launch the first game ever again, because all of that stuff is supposed to be moved over. And I would assume that means coins and loot boxes and stuff as well. So if you want to save up the coins, then yeah, that's fine. However, keep in mind, loot boxes, the items inside are determined the moment you get the loot box, not when you open it. So if you were to get a whole bunch of loot boxes now and wait until Overwatch 2, you're going to be very disappointed because you're not going to get any of the new stuff. It's just going to get stuff from now. So that's why holding on to loot boxes before a new character gets released is pointless, because the items are already determined the moment you get it, not when you open it. Next up, do you think Junkrat could use some changes because his main niche is not really useful now, and that is of being a specialty character for breaking barriers? And I've talked about this several times in the last couple weeks. What's the point of having a character that can break barriers when almost all the other DPS can already do it just as well? You don't need to run a Junkrat. You can just run a Hanzo or a McCree and have a much better DPS while still breaking the barriers. You also have Roadhog or Baptiste. They can also break the barriers quite well. So you just don't need that specialty anymore. I definitely think you could make some changes to Junkrat to make him a little less spammy and a little more kind of accuracy, skill-based. Someone else made the suggestion of lowering his primary attack damage and increasing the projectile speed, and that could work, but you'd have to be careful with it. You don't want it to move too fast, because then that would just be ridiculous, right? If you had a really fast projectile that was doing even 100 damage, that would just be ridiculous, right? So you couldn't have a character able to just constantly lob out that attack. There are some changes that could be made to Junkrat. I'm not entirely certain what they could be at this moment. I'd have to stop and think on it a little bit longer. Next up, should D.Va have increased damage but also have a reload? I don't think damage is the problem for D.Va. She already does a decent amount of damage with her normal attack and the micro missiles. She has very good mobility. I think the problem is that D.Va gets demech'd very, very quickly. The hitbox on the character is gigantic, the critical hitbox is also really big, so it's easy to demech D.Va, and the problem is she has Defense Matrix as her defensive ability. It is incredibly powerful when it's on, but because of that, it needs to be used in a very limited way. That's why they keep nerfing the amount of use that they have, and they added a cooldown to it and all this other stuff, so that you can't have Defense Matrix up all the time, because it was so unbelievably powerful. So because of that, she either has this unbelievably powerful defensive ability, or she has nothing at all and a massive critical hitbox. So, I don't know. I think there are some changes that you could make to D.Va. I don't think adding more damage is really what she needs. I think there's other stuff I think that could be looked at. Oh boy, here's an interesting one. With Ashe's voice actor seemingly being fired, do you think Ashe will get a new one for Overwatch 2? If you don't know the story behind this, a while back, Blizzard laid off some employees in departments that they no longer needed anymore. They weren't able to move them into other sections, and they couldn't just keep them around forever in departments that are no longer needed, so they had to lay them off. So some people didn't like this, and one of those people was Ashe's voice actor, and she went to Twitter and was very public, attacking Blizzard, insulting some of the higher up people about it. She later quickly backtracked and, started, saying, oh, no, I'm making excuses for what she said and all that sort of thing. But I think the damage had been done at that point. And ever since then, there has been no new voice content for Ashe in the game at all. Nothing for the events or anything else. And all the other characters, the other new characters, have been getting new voice lines for the different events. But Ashe is suspiciously missing. So this has led a bunch of people, I actually brought this up quite a while back as well. I said, this is kind of interesting. Ashe hasn't gotten any new voice lines ever since that little outburst. I wonder if she got fired. So we don't know for certain whether or not she actually did get fired, or if Blizzard is just like, we're just not gonna pay her for this stuff. We're just not gonna bring her in for any of these. So I think what we'll find out with Overwatch 2 is they're going to have to get new voice lines for Overwatch 2. There's just no way around it, because there's new game modes, and even if Ashe is not a part of the main storyline stuff, they have other repeatable game modes where you can use any character you want and still have that kind of PvE experience. So they absolutely will need a lot of new voice lines from every single voice actor for this. So if Ashe has new stuff, then we know that it's just Blizzard not wanting to include her in some of these events. But yeah, maybe if it's an entirely new voice actor, then we know what happened. So I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see. Next up, would old Torbjorn work as a support with his armor packs? If you're talking about taking most of that old character and just moving it into support, I don't think it would work at all. It wouldn't be a good idea. If you're talking about specifically that ability with the armor packs, I think it could work as kind of like a supplementary healing ability. Like, for example, with Baptiste, he's got his primary healing ability, and he also has the AoE heal. With Ana, she has her main healing, and she also has the Bionade. So you could have that as like that extra thing, sure. I don't really know if it's the greatest idea, though, because just throwing that stuff out then requires the other players to go and pick it up, and, I mean, it seems like it's a simple thing, but I don't know. I just don't really think it would be all that great. I think there are other abilities that you could use that would work better. Next up, what if anti-heal didn't expire after a certain amount of time passed, but after a certain amount of healing was denied? I've thought about this sort of thing as well. I wouldn't really call it anti-healing as so much as anti-health, I guess might be a better way of calling it. And it definitely couldn't have an infinite duration. It would have to expire after a certain amount of time. But essentially how it would work is, rather than just blocking all of the healing for, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever, you would apply this anti-health to an enemy. And let's say it's 100 anti-health. And the other healers on the enemy team would then have to heal that target for 100 before the normal health would start to get restored. So it would basically, it's kind of almost like attacking your own teammates' anti-health would basically be how it is. I think it could work. I don't know if I would completely replace the anti-healing on it. Maybe anti-heal is a little simpler, right? Like, you don't have to have 100% anti-heal. You could just have a 30% anti-heal or 50% or something. And I think you would effectively get kind of the same thing, because with the anti-health stuff that you're kind of describing, you would basically get 0 healing until it's completely gone. I think it definitely could work, but I don't know if I would just completely replace all of the anti-heal with it. And that leads into the next question, which is, won't more anti-heal be just as annoying as crowd control? I don't think so. I mean, yeah, it's frustrating to get anti-healed, but it's not the same, because even when you're anti-healed, you still can move your character around, you can attack, you can use your abilities, all that kind of stuff. You just can't get healed. So you have to play a little bit more defensively, you can't be as reckless. So it might be a little on the frustrating side. Yeah, sure, I would admit that. But I don't think it's anything like being crowd controlled where you just can't move or can't attack or whatever, that sort of stuff. What's the biggest misconception in the Overwatch community when it comes to tactics or stats? That's an easy one. It's the idea that having a gold medal means you're doing well. Having a gold medal is either worthless or it's bad. Let me give you a couple of examples. If you're playing as DPS and you have the gold medal for damage, that is worthless because you're playing DPS. You're supposed to have it. It doesn't mean you're doing particularly well. In fact, in some cases, it could mean that you're still doing really badly. Let's say you're 4 minutes into a match and you have gold damage, but it's only 1,200 or 1,500 damage. That's absolutely terrible. So yeah, you have gold, but you're at the top of the dirt pile. You're not doing well. You're underperforming by quite a bit, but the rest of your team is underperforming as well. So it's not a good thing. It's bad. Or you could look at another case where Reinhardt has the gold damage. Again, it doesn't mean that the Reinhardt is playing particularly well. It means that the DPS are greatly underperforming. So having the gold medal is either worthless or it's bad, but it's almost never a really indicator that you're doing well. There are other things that you need to look at in order to determine whether or not you're playing well. Next up, do you think Overwatch 2 is affecting Overwatch 1 positively or negatively? I think it's a little bit of both. Yes, there has been more excitement because of the announcement of Overwatch 2. There are certainly a lot of people that are looking forward to more story, more campaign modes, and new characters, new maps, all that sort of stuff, and just a different way of playing the game. However, at the same time, there's very clearly been a lot less content for Overwatch 1, and we're not really supposed to get a whole lot from now until the release of Overwatch 2. I think there's only supposed to be one new character that gets released. Obviously, we didn't get one with last year's BlizzCon. We haven't gotten a new map for a little while. So there's definitely less content with Overwatch 1 until Overwatch 2 finally gets released. So yeah, there's good and there's some bad to it. Overall, I don't know. I mean, I think they're kind of banking everything on just waiting for Overwatch 2 to come out and then hoping that there's a big resurgence. I think Blizzard fully expects that they're going to be losing player base from now until Overwatch 2 gets released because of the lack of content. I think that they're kind of accepting it. It's treating it as an acceptable loss. They're going to lose some players because of the decline in new content, and then they're just hoping that there's going to be enough of a resurgence that it counteracts all that stuff. That's going to be all the questions for this week. Thank you to everyone who submitted one. Remember, if you want to get a question for next week, post it down in the comment section below. Also, if you'd like to toss a coin to your Overwatch YouTuber, hit that link down below. You can get your free audiobook from Audible. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller because it's never your fault.